A Beloit Sky Carp alum can now call himself a gold medalist. Javier Sinojo was not only part of Team Venezuela, he scored the game-winning run in the 2026 World Baseball Classic final Tuesday to lift his country to the title. The second baseman played in 30 games with the Sky Carp in High A in 2023. He batted .267 with 10 RBIs and 3 home runs, and then spent the last 2 seasons with the team's MLB affiliate, the Miami Marlins. In 2025, he appeared in 120 games with Miami. In this year's WBC with Venezuela, he played in 3 games with 8 at-bats, 3 hits, and a home run.